card on Saturday. We will start with the Oaks and take a look at the betting that we have on matchbook.com. These are Friday races here. So this is 4:30 regular time slot here. We will touch on the FA Cup final and the Derby when we get to that race. Save the Last Dance is your 2.25 favourite. Soul Sister 3.5. Running Line 7.0. Eternal Hope 15.0. Heartache Tonight 21.0. And Bigger the Rest. Charlie Poste, over to you for the Epsom Oaks.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's very unoriginal. I mean, I went through the race and there's some lovely unexposed fillies in against the favourite, but I just kept coming back to her. I mean, she was so impressive at Chester. I then was like, oh, maybe the ground's going to be a factor, but she is a Galileo, and you listen to everything Aidan O'Brien says, and he kind of seems to think she might be even better on decent ground. If that's the case, it's a real worry for everyone else because, I mean, if she improves on the fact that Chester form, which is limited, but the visual impression of it and the figures of the times, and she steps forward again on good ground on what is going to only be her fourth start, I think she's going to take a heck of a lot of beating, Dan.
Okay, yeah, Save the Last Dance. And same for you, Tom. You've got a sort of different angle with another horse here. So talk us through your staking strategy.
So I agree with Save the Last Dance. I mean, fundamentally, I guess I'm pleased that Soul Sister did what she did at York, but I'm against her because, in fact, I offered our colleague at Racing TV, Angus McNay, 11-2 because I really didn't like the form of the race. I didn't like really how she's been campaigned running in a Guineas trial. Maybe she just needed that run and there was no other option for her. But she finished last of 12. I suppose it's worth pointing out that there've been a few Gosden horses at that time of the year, end of April time, mid to end of April, who ran absolute stinkers and have come out and won subsequently. Honiton, who runs tomorrow, was another one of those. There's another pretty obvious one as well, who ran appallingly first start of the season, then come out and run much better. But I just don't love that trial a huge amount, the Musadora. I'm against Running Lion, who I'm not certain will absolutely stay, and I think the Lingfield trial for the girls wasn't all that strong. So I think she's really solid, Save the Last Dance. Yes, the ground is going to be an unknown, but equally, day one of this meeting, he's going to water to keep it good ground because he knows that he's not going to want to put water down on the Friday night, and he'll allow it to be good to firm for the Saturday, and it will quicken up. So I think he'll water for good ground. So I don't think we can use the ground as an excuse. She was absolutely electric on the clock as well. It was just a ridiculously good performance. I think her price is fair enough. A slight caveat concern is that I think the O'Brien horses, I don't know if you know anymore, Charlie, are coming over early again like they did for Newmarket, and they all ran shockers. But whether or not they're coming over even earlier this time, because Newmarket was a bit of a rush coming over the night before, that's just at the back of my mind as a slight concern. But because that's what was levelled as the problem for all of them in Newmarket. But ultimately, that's not a good enough reason to oppose Save the Last Dance, who should be far too good. And then the other silly one is Maman June, who has had one start, was hammered by Gather Ye Rosebuds, who was well beaten in that Musadora. But they did it, Ammo Racing, with Mojo Star a few years ago, or last year in the Derby, or 2 years ago in the Derby, when on third star as a maiden he finished second at 51.0. He was a See the Stars. Maman June's a See the Stars. She's well drawn and she should appreciate the extra distance. So I thought she was worth a little fun poke at 51.0 on a line through what they did, Richard Hannon Ammo Racing, with Mojo Star.
51.0. Charlie, quick word on Aidan O'Brien and bring the horses over. And obviously you're in that industry. For us punters in general, like there is no perfect time, I guess, to have a horse. Like every horse is different, but what's the sort of stock time that a horse comes over coming over from Ireland ahead of a British meeting? I
mean, we obviously know that Aidan is in that sort of a luxury sort of system where I think they come over, literally they fly them over in the morning of the race. I mean, I think obviously they had to change plans for the Guineas, and by all accounts, I think they're bringing them over 2 days in advance of their targets, Oaks and Derby, this time around, to try and give them to make the journey more as Aidan would like it. Look, the funny thing about it is maybe it was the defining reason for why they performed below par at the Guineas meeting. But it's what everyone else would do, that brings horses over from Ireland and vice versa. So I'm surprised. I'd be surprised if that was the defining factor. I like I say, whether it's the way Aidan would want it this time, but I'd imagine he's had more time to make contingency plans. I would be very surprised if the travel this time round is going to be the problem. I mean, normally, Dan, you would suggest that travel is something that affects individual horses differently. Some of them that are more laid back and relaxed characters will cope with travel however it may be. Some of the ones that are slightly more fraught and highly strung, maybe it suits them better to come over on the morning of the race because they're not away from home where it can be an issue for the meeting or fretting and burning off nervous energy. I'd imagine that's why Aidan's bringing them over a bit longer in advance now to try and give them more time to relax and settle. And look, hey, Aidan O'Brien's not the sort of man that makes the same mistake twice. And I wouldn't have any concerns really re the travel arrangements for the Oaks and the Derby.
Okay, yes, strong shouts for the favourite with Tom and Charlie. And Tom also with a fun poke, as DC says in the comments. He loves a fun poke, so he's on board with that. I think, Tom, you've sold him based on purely saying it's a fun poke. Maham June, 51.0 currently. Look, you could get bigger on the day.